is so square, he thinks that Planned Parenthood means living with his mother.
You know, I could have had the lead in I Spy, but they gave it to Robert Culp.
It's not that Ronald Reagan dislikes education. It's just that he's not fanatic about it.
You know, I always say before two people can love each other, they really have to like each other.
Boris says real rejection is trying to sell support your local police bumper stickers at Berkeley. Isn't he silly?
As the Ram Chongulahorn once said, when the lamb lieth down with the lion, it is then and then only the pigeon will sit on the arm of the idol.
When I asked Harry whether he'd rather watch Mission Impossible or Kiss Me, he said, "What's the difference?"
I say we ought to get bingo out of the supermarkets and back into the churches where it belongs.
90% of the Cadillac owners in America say those white people sure make some sharp cars.
I have nothing against the sexual revolution, as long as they don't start storming my barricades.
It is said, if the maiden saveth not the oil, it is then the Maharaja trims the wick.
I wish I had said that.
And there'd be no trouble in the Middle East if only the Israelis and the Arabs would start behaving like good Christians.
Well, what do you think of red china?
On a blue tablecloth, I think it looks lovely.
You're no relation to the Seattle Martins, are you?
No. My mother married my stepfather's brother by a previous marriage. You might call me the man from Uncle.
Kiriaki, get over here, fast. I think I've found Thrush headquarters at last.
May I ask a personal question?
Yes, my child, anything.
Who are you and what are you doing here?
My brother's a Quaker. Some of his best Jews are friends.
Well, Boris says a hippie is what comes just above the kneesies. Isn't that?
The ugly people know who they are.
I wanted to have a nose job, but Harry said it would be like putting a new luggage rack on a 1953 DeSoto.
As it is said by Ram Chahandagar, the star rose of man are thousandfold, but it is the camel that has but one hump.
Well, is it true that British women are more reserved?
No, I wouldn't say that. I suppose it's not a bad idea to give them a call first.
Adam and Eve, Anthony and Cleopatra, Liz and Dick, and now you and me.
Oh, I know. I've seen you somewhere. Give me another clue. Go on.
Well, does the name Bill Cosby mean anything to you?
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
In the words of the Maharishi, if the laughing hyena laughs, but the grizzly bear does not grizzle, what then of the horned toad?
No, actually, it's in Idaho.
Would you mind saying that again?
Idaho?
That's frightfully interesting. We pronounce it Ohio.
You show me a girl who growls like that, and I'll show you a tiger.
My last boyfriend's mother used to say that. Funny, his name was Dickie, too.
Mom always did like him best.
You know, I think
think God Save the Queen was first written for Oscar Wilde.
Love it here. Well, if your heart belongs to me, how come the rest of you goes out with so many other guys?
Boris and I have the most violent political arguments. He thinks the Democrats can do no wrong, and of course I'm for Johnson.
It is said that the man who soweth the oats in the garden of his neighbor, perhaps he has not a pot to plant in.
Raquel Welch may look exciting, but man cannot live by broad alone.
Hey, it's not that I'm against marriage. I'd get married in a minute if I didn't have to live in.
Actually, there have been a lot of successful show business marriages. Eddie Fisher, Debbie Reynolds, Eddie Fisher, Liz Taylor, Eddie Fisher, Connie Stevens.
It didn't surprise me when he was unfrocked. After all, he shouldn't have been wearing a frock in the first place.
Did Bacon really write Shakespeare?
It's difficult to tell. The postal service was so bad in those days.
Doesn't the night go by fast when you're having fun?
It wasn't until I met Heathcliff that I realized why they call England the mother country.
You know, my wife just doesn't understand me.
Oh, you married men are all the same.
No, I mean it. She doesn't understand me. She's Swahili.
It is well known that the mariner who steers his ship on another's course cares not if the ship hits the sand.
Oh, I don't care anymore. I just want to swing.
Well, you're not getting me to take out a marriage license. Not until they start giving learner's permits.
Sonny and I are perfectly compatible. As soon as there's a problem, my psychiatrist contacts his psychiatrist and they work it out.
Boris says we'll never win the war on poverty till all those poor people surrender.
Well, if they make a modern version of the Old Testament, then they'll just have to change that bit about the Egyptians beating the Israelites.
Well, how do you feel about de Gaulle?
Well, you mustn't be too hard on him. After all, if General de Gaulle hadn't got out of Vietnam, you Americans wouldn't have it today.
There's no such thing as a bad boy. Just a lot of nice boys doing disgusting things.
My instinct about people is uncanny. Now, take that man over there. Something tells me he's not to be trusted.
Which one?
The one who's tearing the clothes off the hostess.
I was wearing turtlenecks long before they became fashionable.
Oh, I'm not surprised that Frank and Mia broke up. I've always been against mixed marriages.
Riley, why are you British so attached to the royal family?
Well, I think it's the tradition and the pageantry. It's the life's blood of every true Englishman. Besides which, they do amuse our tourists.
After all, this country was founded on a revolution, and we think it's time for another. Provided, of course, the government will subsidize it.
It is said, the heart of the artichoke and the seed of the persimmon shall never find peace in the jelly of the guava.
Poor Boris, he's working so hard lately. All day long he's at the CIA. Then at night he's up in the attic with the shortwave radio.
Oh, I've thought about marriage, but I prefer the single life. What was good enough for my father is good enough for me.
I just love tennis. I wouldn't miss the finals at Forest Lawn for anything.
On the other hand, that man over there is obviously a bigot, a racist, and a hate monger.
How can you tell?
Well, look at that sign he's carrying. It says, I'm a bigot, a racist, and a hate monger.
I believe religion should keep abreast of the times, and the news, the Herald Examiner.
Just
Just think, if Jonathan Winters divorced Spring Byington and married Joni Summers in the fall, he'd be a man for all seasons, huh?
You know, Roddy, one thing. When Americans get to England, they are aggravating.
Oh, on the contrary, I think in England they can be very charming. It's over here they're rather aggravating.
My father's idea of a bum trip is a weekend in Cleveland.
It is said, the man who burneth incense within the confines of his own room shall never suffer the loss of a pomegranate.
Oh, Boris and I have the most violent political arguments. I say the defense of California begins in Saigon, but Boris says better red than Shirley Temple black.
I've got nothing against getting married, but the way I figure it, why trade a headache for an upset stomach?
Now look at that couple in the corner. You'll never convince me they're married.
Which one?
Over there, that priest standing talking to that nun.
I say the Republicans stand a chance this year, but they'll probably spoil it by nominating someone.
Heaven shines on showfolk. Look at what happened to Billy Graham.
Some nights I put out all the lights and play Robert Goulet records till I could just scream.
It is said that the plum tree which groweth figs is rarer than the mistral wind which bloweth the mountain lion uphill.
I was just shocked when Frank Sinatra split up with Mia after she'd given him the best year of her life.
Listen, I've spent a lot of time in London. I think it has a certain air about it.
Yes, we call it fog.
Good girls are the happiest because they know they're good. Bad girls must find it awfully hard to sleep at night.
I took a pill this morning. I hope it works twice as fast as aspirin alone.
Now, the Mormons had the right idea. It's just a shame that polygamy never caught on among the married people of this country.
Now, you shouldn't make fun of polygamies. They can't help it if they're not tall.
I say we should bring sex education into the classroom and away from the playing field.
I'm all for modernizing our hymns, but I still think Amen is better than Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
It's just that I feel women were put on this earth to reproduce, and I'm not doing my part.
Oh, when I finally find the man who's exactly right for me, I just hope his wife won't make a scene.
There's one thing I don't quite understand about your political system, you know.
Yes.
And that is that it seems to me you take a lot of very good men and they say some very nasty things to each other, and then gradually you narrow it down until you've got two people insulting each other, and then you elect one of them president.
And you don't understand that?
Not entirely, no.
Neither do I.
My mother just isn't with it. She thinks the Valley of the Dolls is where Santa Claus goes in the summer.
My daughter says now that the Supreme Court has outlawed prayers in school, the convent's just not the same.
My granddaddy, the colonel, says you just can't be too white. You don't think success will spoil Charles de Gaulle?
You see, your problem in America is that you don't understand de Gaulle. Our problem in France is we do.
I do wish they'd stop the war so our boys can come home from Canada.
Well, if the camel eat only of the olive bush, think then of the jealousy of the fig bush.
have to call your husband for? We'll be back in a week.
Boris says Red China's our friend. And when they get here, they're going to prove it.
The trouble with today's children is they just haven't learned enough about the Bible. Why, it's enough to try the patience of Job.
Very interesting, but not funny.
My doctor says I have the body of a 70-year-old.
That's the most beautiful thing I ever heard.
My granddaddy, the colonel, says that Gettysburg was the American Pearl Harbor.
Now, you take the French people. Or better yet, go to Paris and let the French people take you.
With my parents, the generation gap is more of a demilitarized zone.
Which brings to mind the story of what the dancing girl gave the Shah's bodyguard. It is a goodie.
All right, so you made your mother a promise. I made my father a promise. So what?
Boris says capitalism doesn't work. But then neither does Boris.
I must say I was frightfully pleased when you Americans made so much of our Twiggy.
Oh, why wouldn't we? We believe all men are created equal.
Paris has something for everybody. Unless, of course, you bring your wife.
Has the devalued pound affected you?
Oh, not really, my dear. I put everything I had into revolving doors and paper towels, and I was wiped out before I could turn round.
I come from a broken home. I broke it myself.
If I'd known integration was coming so soon, then I'd have waited to marry the woman of my choice.
Do you feel the clergy should have a union?
Why not? We're all white-collar workers.
Harry and I met in the tunnel of love, and when we came out, he scuttled the ship.
In Britain, we like to think that the youth of today are the mothers and fathers of tomorrow.
Is that so? In America, our problem is to keep the mothers and fathers of tomorrow from becoming the mothers and fathers of today.
Boris says making love is only another form of free enterprise.
It is said the jackass is a beast of burden, but it is the camel that has the big problem.
And above all, remember these 3 little words. Don't argue.
That's only 2 little words.
See, you're learning.
I love everything about you, English, especially your muffins.
Thank you very much, my dear. I feel the same way about you.
My parents say I don't know what good, clean fun is. And they're right. I don't know what good it is.
You can't buy true love for $1,000. Maybe 10 years ago, but not today.
Do you think the sun will be out tomorrow?
Please, my dear, I'd rather not talk shop.
Well, in fox hunting, the leader wears a black velvet hat and a pink velvet jacket, and he's followed by about 20 or 30 men.
In that outfit, I'm not surprised.
You know, it's amazing. First skirts were down around the ankles, and then around the knees, now the thighs. Where will it all end?
Do you still use the metric system over there?
Not since my wife took the pill.
fact that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away doesn't make the Lord an Indian giver.
Reverend Mother, get over here quickly. There's a bunch of people here, and they're all flying.
I only switched to bananas because I couldn't keep my cantaloupe lit.
I'm really worried about the world situation. We've been teetering on the brink of peace for years.
Back home in Texas, we like to think old Lyndon's gonna win by a landslide. We also like to think cigarettes are good for you.
You know that when Sigmund Freud discovered the sex drive, General Motors tried to buy it?
And if the fisherman tickleth the rainbow trout, what then of the handmaiden?
I don't know much about politics, but I'd vote yes on any proposition.
I've never coveted my neighbor's wife. But then again, neither is my neighbor.
Ladybird says she'll beautify America, even if she has to move heaven and earther.
If there'd been a union in those days, there'd be no Bible today. The guild would never have allowed Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to work on Sundays.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. The price of living is going up so high, I can hardly afford to buy my groceries. Maybe I ought to rent them.
Yes, and international affairs, our president and your queen are inseparably linked.
Really? How long has this been going on?
Man, I'm an Aquarius. You know, the sign of the water carrier. My horoscope says I'd never let myself go. Now that can be a problem.
I've got an idea. Let's get out of Vietnam and not tell Martha Ray.
Why, there ain't a Republican around can beat a Texas boy like Lyndon. Unfortunately, there are a few Democrats.
Oh, I could never be a racist. I'm allergic to horses.
As the Maharishi says, when crossing one's legs to meditate, it is best to be seated.
My Harry worships the ground I walk on. He has this thing about topsoil.
Say when.
How about right after the party?
I don't know what all the fuss is about. The wives of Henry VIII went topless.
The Lord loveth the cheerful giver, but he'll also take from a grouch.
I'm glad they didn't have the pill in my Mother's Day. Where would I be?
Why don't you Americans recognize the red Chinese?
Because to us, all Chinese look alike.
Very interesting.
I know 4 hippies who died from drinking milk.
Really?
Yeah, cow fell on them.
Our country would be much better off with a strong leader.
I know, but Sinatra can't do everything.
I have nothing against minorities, but what happens when there's more of them than there is of us?
I think the award for Best Supporting Actor should go to Hubert Humphrey.
I just want to take a second to tell you I think you're a very lovely girl.
Oh, I thought Cary Grant was much taller.
I get this terrible fear. I imagine this huge, hairy brute is going to overpower me. My psychiatrist says this won't happen. That's when I get this terrible fear.
How do you Americans feel about Cassius Clay?
Well, some people say if Muhammad won't go to the army, let the army go to Muhammad.
I didn't know Dr. Spock cared about people. I thought I was only interested in babies.
My grandfather's a sexagenarian.
It's amazing at his age.
Personally, I would never call Christian Dior a man of the cloth.
Which reminds me of the tale of the dancing maiden and the wonderful things she did with tapioca pudding.
I know Joey Bishop isn't your real name. Now, what was it before you changed it?
Helen Hayes.
I was in the movie Bikini Beach Party. I played a wet blanket.
I just want to tell you, I think you're a very lovely girl.
Oh, I thought Walter Brennan was taller.
I believe all our religious leaders have these same basic goals, with the possible exception of Hugh Hefner.
I wanted to ask my boyfriend to see In the Heat of the Night, but I didn't know how to phrase the invitation.
Why do you British maintain a stiff upper lip?
There's a definite feeling of insecurity about British dentures.
How do I know you'll still love me if we get married?
Baby, you know how I love married ladies.
The aesthetic enjoyment of transcendental meditation brings a wonderfulness of love and peace, and I can get it for you for $1.50.
I'm Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, no, you ain't. He's much taller.
I see where a member of the American Rifle Association is involved in a paternity suit.
Son of a gun.
It's not that I wanted to work for the CIA. It's just that I still had family in Washington.
I'll tell you how I felt about that garbage strike in New York City. I don't know which smelled worse, the strike or the settlement.
Yeah, I've known old since before he went into politics. That'd be a week ago last Wednesday.
I fear for the separation of church and state. General Hershey just called up the Salvation Army.
It was incredible. Last night at the movies, I had to change my seat 4 times before somebody bothered me.
I dreamed about you last night.
You did?
I want to thank you for a wonderful evening.
If the dromedary is not but a common camel, the alligator is just a croc, according to the Maharishi.
Why is it so few American homes have an original bidet?
Well, they're not as popular as Picasso, and they're much tougher to hang on the wall.
If it comes down to Nixon and Johnson, well, we Texans are going to go all out for Johnson. See, he's better for tourism.
Boris says the elections in South Vietnam were so successful that LBJ is thinking of running there.
When you sin, you must ask forgiveness and expect to do penance. But you don't say, "Sock it to me."
The student that makes trouble for the scribe is not but a pain in the class, according to the Maharishi.
Boy, those Rockefeller brothers sure got it figured out. Nelson settles the strikes, and Winthrop knows where the bodies are buried.
I'm a MacDonald.
Oh, I always eat your hamburgers.
No less. I mean the MacDonald clan.
Someone mentioned a clan? feet, do your duty.
Mr. Jessel, what are all those medals for?
Well, this one is for Korea, this one's for World War II, and this is for appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I just found out Adam and Eve were never married. Do you know what that makes all of us?
General de Gaulle, you know, has nuclear weapons pointed in every direction.
Finally found out who his friends are, huh?
Texas has produced some great men. Sam Houston, Sam Alston, and Lyndon Johnson. Now, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I don't think they should have glorified Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, he was obviously homogeneous, and she was an out-and-out pyromaniac.
Well, that's because people are confused. Like, every time I ask someone what time it is, they tell me something different.
I'm in favor of keeping the church up to date, but I question the need for a loose-leaf Bible.
I've got everything a man could want, so why am I a woman?
All I really want is a woman to love and a mother for my children. And I just hope the two never meet each other.
You should have heard the speech Rap Brown gave in on Laborhood last night. It was a riot.
Boris is in favor of the two-party system, just as long as they're both at my place.
It is said, the moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on. But what then of the dancing maiden and her strange baubles?
Mr. Sullivan, where'd you get all those medals?
Well, it's a darn nice view to ask. Now, this is for Korea. Now, this is for World War II. This is for having Georgie Jessel on our show.
I hear on Malibu Beach this summer they're insisting on one-piece bathing suits. I just wonder, do they mean the top or the bottom?
Say, is Harold Wilson in the Conservative Party?
No, he's in Labour, and we've waited 2 years for him to deliver.
My boyfriend and I enjoyed In the Heat of the Night so much. Next week we're going to see the movie.
Yesterday, I bought a new car. Today, I bought a new horn for it. Herb Alpert.
I'm all for updating the wedding ceremony, but I still think I do is better than, yeah, baby.
My doctor said I had to cut down on my love life. I said talking about it or thinking about it.
Do you ever get uptight?
No, but sometimes I go to bed a little loaded.
300 years we've been praying to get into your schools. And now that we're in, they passed a law against praying.
For my birthday, Boris gave me a Polish goldfish. It drowned.
In the words of the Maharishi, he who sifteth the sands of the desert has naught but a load of grit.
Georgie, what do you consider to be one of your greatest feats?
Going with Kay Smith and Annette Funicello in the same lifetime.
I see you have recently met a raven-haired beauty, and you're thinking of seeing her later tonight.
I'm not thinking of seeing anyone later tonight.
Okay, how about later tomorrow night?
I say if the poor people got themselves some decent clothes, some more money, and started to eat regular, they'd be a lot better off.
Boris and I almost broke up over his political beliefs. He's a card-carrying cheapskate.
It is said that fish is food for the brain, and meat is food for the body. But whither goeth the bird?
I could have married anyone I pleased. So far, I haven't pleased anyone.
Many young people are returning to the fold. Just this Sunday in the collection, I got $78 and 3 buttons saying, "Keep off the grass."
My boyfriend was so rich, he used to break into liquor stores and leave money.
I believe in doing unto others as I would have them do unto me, so let's do it.
My boyfriend is so considerate. Yesterday I went and stubbed my toe and he insisted on giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Boris said he wanted to take me to the Urals. I told him I was quite capable of going by myself.
Which reminds me of the tale of the dancing maiden and the wondrous way in which she removed the wallpaper in the Shah's dining room.
My life is just like a tug of war. One big jerk after another.
I think the difference between the Democrats and Republicans is negligible. I'm going after the negligible vote.
I understand Americans are becoming more and more British.
What do you mean?
Well, I've heard there's been a use of a great deal of tea on the campuses.
Oh, you are about to suffer a great personal loss. You will lose your husband.
My husband died 5 years ago.
Then you will lose your umbrella.
I've always known that someday I'd find Mrs. Wright. Now, if we can just keep it a secret from Mr. Wright.
I'm tired of all this talk of a dynasty in American politics. As I said only this morning to my brother, Prince Teddy.
My IQ has never been questioned. Come to think about it, it's never been mentioned.
Well, does your government insist that servicemen replace lost equipment?
Yes, which may explain why so many captains go down with their ships.
I predict your efforts will reach their peak in 1972.
But what do you see there for me?
Triplets.
You know, my girlfriend's father threw us out of the house last night. Caught us dancing to an Everett Dirksen record.
Oh, I love Joan Baez. I've even got a set of her autographed fingerprints.
You know, I've taken the lead in my community as an equal opportunity employer. I pay my wetbacks the same as I pay my Indians.
Goldie, if you believed in something strongly enough, would you go on a hunger strike?
No, I couldn't. I'm on a diet.
My church welcomes all denominations, but my favorite is the $5 bill.
I tried to join the sexual revolution, but I flunked the physical.
What with the ankle, the knee, the hip, the elbow, and the wrist? Boo to those who speak evilly of the joint, according to the Maharishi.
Were you involved in a lot of action during the war?
Yeah, right up to the time I was drafted.
I went to a parochial school. We really learned the 3 R's: reading, writing, and rhythm.
Well, what do you English think of Jimmy Hoffa?
Well, at least he's a man of conviction, isn't he?
You believe in the theory of evolution?
Well, I say if it's good enough for the monkeys, it's good enough for all of it.
Remember the words of the captain of the Titanic. The family that prays together stays together.
Last night I saw Cool Hand Lucan in the heat of the night and came home with a cold.
According to the Maharishi, he who sleepeth on a bed of nails is naught but a lazy faker.
Boris says that 35% of the women in this country are working women. The other 65% are working men.
I knew the minute I laid eyes on you, you were the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. You do live alone, don't you?
It's not the hawks or the doves that I'm worried about. It's those cuckoos in Washington who are trying to make pigeons out of all of us.
Do you think we should escalate or negotiate?
In Vietnam or Detroit?
No, I spend a lot of time in the market.
Oh, are you a bull or a bear?
No, I'm a box boy.